So hello everybody, this is Tina and I'm speaking to Katja, and we are talking about doing our series on the nodes and the 3 stages of the sun signs. And this particular one is about Sun in Leo with the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra.
Yes, and I love Leo. I'll just say that. It's my moon, and I have a lot of experience with, myself, obviously.
Right.
Having this theme in my own chart and seeing others. So I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah. Yeah, so would you have anything that you'd like to say about that? Further specifics?
Well, I guess I'll say that, Leo is learning inspired leadership, right? So every sun sign is here to learn and embody one of the elements of divine truth. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So for Leo, it's learning to embody inspired leadership. And we'll go through all the stages, but really the arc is one of coming in and having tremendous strength and being able to help a lot of people, and over time going into second stage, which has its sort of own qualities, which we'll talk about for every sign. But ultimately, Leo comes out into third stage and becomes the sort of a leader in a very creative way, right? They embody their creativity and they start to do it just for themselves. Their whole journey they've spent trying to help other people get external validation. And in third stage, they start to really come into their own and start to be just really doing the things they love for the sake of them and for the pleasure of creating, for the joy, I'll say, of creating.
Yes.
Right? And we're talking about Aries North Node, Libra South Node today. So we'll be talking about how the Aries quality of following your own path, following your own goals, and individuating, self-actualizing, plays into, and then the Libra South Node, of course, element of being maybe overly accommodating, having some negative relationship patterns that can put a splinter on our, into the rest of our journey. So that sort of dynamic, we'll be talking about how that plays into the Leo sun journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. So what first stage Leo is, as Katja mentioned, is born into an environment where they're given a lot of support and they become very, very strong because of the riches of their environment and the way it spontaneously supports them. Mm-hmm. So they grow up with huge gratitude to their people and to everything that they've been given, everything that's around them, and this really strong desire to just give from the heart to everything and everyone around them for the sake of the people. Mm-hmm. And actually, my old best friend who passed away in 2005, who actually did in her own way mentor me to some of the things I discovered with my system of astrology, she had moon in Leo. And she remembered being born, and this thing going through her mind was the people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and these obviously these videos will correspond to the sun in Leo with the nodes in, the moon's nodes, but it's also going to connect to the moon for people as well, because the moon is the sign we were before the sign we are now, and we replay those stages with our moon sign. So,
yes.
One of the reasons we're bringing up the moon in Leo.
Yeah. And it's fascinating, if I may say here, that, it can kind of feel like an undercurrent to if you have a moon in a sign, it can feel like an undercurrent to your kind of main curriculum.
Yep, it's true.
And that learning the keys, right, to get from the stickier place of second stage into our full self-actualized purpose that happens in third stage. Learning the keys for the moon sign can also be really helpful, because once you kind of do that, you sort of remind yourself what it takes to go from second to third stage in any sign.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Right. So it's helpful if you're, if you have a moon sign in a, to watch the video, not only for your sun sign, but also for your moon sign.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Which Leos will want to do. Because
Yeah.
they're proactive.
Very proactive.
So a first stage Leo comes in, and there's this caring for the people. And they are the ones who, actually Leos can often be taller, especially if they've got first stage traits, but they are metaphorically taller than everybody else in the sense that they've got a higher vision, and they can see in a very practical way all the things that need to change. They see what's going on before other people see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the first stage Leo person is the one who will literally or metaphorically see that cloud of dust on the far horizon that is the invading army, and mobilize the people to get them out of this negative situation where they're going to be destroyed by their enemies and into a positive situation. So this is what first stage Leo does, is they are constantly leading people into a much more constructive direction for their society, leading them out of bad situations and scenarios of one form or another and into positive ones. And that is a bit of a challenge, because Leos have to walk a fine line between conformity and nonconformity in first stage. Because if they're too different from everybody, nobody will listen to them. And if they're too much the same as everybody, they will lose their vision. So they have to be detached enough from everybody else to see what's going on and to have the broader vision, because they have a very practical, intuitive ability. This is hardwired into Leo people. And they need to know what the ropes are of social convention, and operate constructively within them, but not be bound by them, not be limited by them. So this is that fine line they're always walking. So the Libra South Node really fits in with that, because it's about making sure that your relationships don't undo you.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't want to try to please the people too much in a subjective way of what they're telling you they need right now, because as the Aries pioneer warrior, North Node, you have to be able to see the vision of where things need to go. So this is actually a very classical nodal combination for a first stage Leo to have.
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
And then really, one thing I try to emphasize from time to time is that these three stages it's not a race, and there's no sense of any stage being really truly superior to any other one. Second stage can get murky, for sure. But a very old soul can be in first stage and be spiritually advanced of a younger soul who's in third stage. And it doesn't matter what level of development we are at anyway, because we are all one, we're all one humanity, and we are all ultimately really meant to just be there for each other and be there for ourselves and appreciate what's going on in the present. Now that's more like third stage Leo, is appreciating what's going on in the present. But a first stage Leo, what I'm trying to say is you can be a pretty advanced person and still be in first stage of a sign.
Yes. That's profound, Tina.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So there's nothing to be ashamed of if a person is in first stage Leo.
There's nothing to be ashamed of, right? And you can't look at someone else next to you and, just because you think they're in third stage, make some comparison about, right?
Yes. Yeah, or because you think someone's in an earlier stage than you, look down on them. That's not going to make sense, or not feasible. It's a waste of time.
Yes, that's one of the things I love about this system, is it scrambles things so much in terms of any possible feeling of superiority or inferiority that we can have.
No. And I mean, if we really use astrology the right way, we're going to understand the perfection of what is and the reason for it to exist the way that it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, if a first stage Leo is getting towards the end of first stage, what is happening is that every human soul always expands and moves forward. You know, the whole universe is expanding. This is just the way existence is, always growing towards greater things. And so Leos, they come in and they save the day all the time, and they don't necessarily consciously realize that's what they're trying to do. Sometimes it's just that if they're the ones who see something before anybody else does, they're the ones who take the practical action. But over time, it's just kind of a stressful position to be in this position of leadership. And so you start to feel under a lot of pressure. There's this pressure to make sure that you're just in that right sweet spot between being a conformist and a nonconformist, so you maintain your vision. And it's a bit isolating.
Yeah.
And a lot of Leo's are a very introverted sign, actually. Because from first stage, they've gone into themselves and relied upon their inner being to maintain and develop their perceptions and to maintain that independence that allows them to sort of actually be an effective leader.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to say, we're actually talking about some of the very quintessential qualities of leadership here.
Yeah. And so again, an Aries North Node is super helpful for that, because it's very much about I'm me, I'm trusting my instincts, I'm taking action right when it needs to happen, right in that instant.
Yes. And Aries is the hero.
And Aries is the hero, absolutely. And so what happens because of this unconscious instinctive need to keep on moving forward is that first stage Leos always keep undertaking, whether they're trying to or not, larger and larger missions.
Yes.
It's a bigger rescue mission. It's a bigger responsibility. And when they get towards the end of first stage Leo, they're actually struggling with things that are almost or pretty much beyond the capability of any mere human.
Yes.
And so at the end of first stage Leo, there's a crisis, because the first stage Leo person is actually trying to do something that is impossible to do, but it's essential that it be done.
Yes.
Or at least it feels that way. If this particular mission does not succeed, then everything is going to be destroyed. Everything is going to collapse.
Yes.
And, you know, as we discussed with Cancer, the Aries North Node with a Libra South Node is a good alignment for crossroading. I think that it is for Leo as well. Because the crossroads happens at the end of first stage of every sign, and it's where a person has a choice to either move down into second stage or to move towards third stage without going through the second stage process, which really is a process of struggle and undoing, and it deepens a person. But it's, you know, if we a compassionate astrologer would like to see everybody go to third stage, even though it's probably not going to be the best idea for everybody to do that. So at the end,
it's going to be less painful.
Yeah, exactly. It's less painful. That's why.
Yes.
Yeah. My Leo best friend always wants people to go from first to third stage because she doesn't want them to go through pain.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Once you know what second stage is.
Yeah.
For every sign, I think we'd all rather have people not have to go through that.
Exactly. So the Leos ultimately need to learn that it's not all up to them to carry the world.
Yes.
And a third stage Leo person is very lost in the spontaneous joy of life. And because there's a higher power that can act through them without them even having to worry about it. So that's really the only way that they can save the show, when they get to this position where they're in a situation where no human being could fight the power that they're dealing with, the challenge and the struggle that they're dealing with.
Yes.
And so that would be the way the crossroads would open up. And so then Aries North Node would be helpful there, because it would help that person do that spontaneity.
Right.
because in second stage Leo, slowly a rigidity, or not, sorry, in first stage Leo, there's a slow tendency to become more and more rigid because you're more and more responsible over time.
Yes.
You're constantly monitoring your correct social role. So that's the South Node in Libra. How am I relating to the outside world in such a way that's perfectly balanced between conformity and nonconformity? But the Aries North Node is going to either be the warrior wearing its armor and also be very responsible and rigid, or it will tap into that spontaneous piece of trusting in the instincts and sort of almost leaping into the unknown. And if that leaping into the unknown part of the self can be activated, and we could look at the house that the North Node is in as for more clues about how to do that, it can assist the person in moving straight to third stage.
Yeah.
Where they no longer feel like their value is based on achieving, because in first stage Leo, the person isn't really thinking that their value comes from achieving things, but they've been used to being isolated while they're fulfilling their purpose, and then everybody applauds them and celebrates them and gives them big hugs when they achieve something big. So they slowly get this subconscious automatic feeling that in order to really be worthy and really be loved and be able to just relax and enjoy my life and enjoy myself, I have to have accomplished something big.
Yeah.
And there's where they have to really detach themselves from the issue they're in order to just fall in love with themselves, because that's what third stage Leo people do.
Yeah.
It's super important. It's not a shallow thing at all. Fall in love with themselves enough to surrender to a divine flow of energy that spontaneously expresses through them. So that's where the Aries North Node can help the Leo make the crossroading. I don't think it's as powerful as it would be for Cancerians, but I think it's going to be a percentage of Leos would be really helped by having this nodal combination help it go to third stage.
Yeah, it feels very harmonious.
Yeah.
With Leo. And they're both fire signs.
Yes.
So, and there's also Aries has the constructive self-interest and self-nurturance. So would you imagine that someone who's kind of getting, because at the end of first stage, it really can feel like a pressure cooker for Leo, right? Where it's so much responsibility, more than any human can handle. Yes. And they need that pressure release valve. And you know, if they were to use that Aries North Node, and if that Aries North Node was helping point their attention to taking care of themselves, if they would you say that, you know, if they turn their attention there, then they could possibly see the warning signs earlier that, okay, I actually need to take care of myself here.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, although I know that most at the end of first stage Leo, they're pretty aware they need to take care of themselves, but their issue is that the situation or the mission is actually more important than them. So they don't really.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So if a person doesn't manage to make the crossroads, and there is no spiritual judgment on someone if they don't make it through the crossroads, because the only thing about if a person does crossroad, they miss out on a kind of deepening process that occurs if a person moves through second stage. So if the world does fall apart, and by the world falling apart, it would mean some kind of really big responsibility that the person is trying to handle doesn't succeed.
Yeah.
Now, the Leo person going into second stage feels like it's their responsibility. Everybody was relying on me and everything all fell apart. So it's all my fault. And, you know, it's interesting how I use Moses as an archetype of first stage Leo. He's such a perfect archetype of first stage Leo, even to the point where he did not allow himself to enter the promised land because of his failures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And it's interesting because, I mean, even if Leos did fail in that final mission, they still did a lot of amazing things before then. but they don't see that. A second stage Leo only sees what didn't succeed.
That's what I have really seen, Tina. I've seen that so much with Leo, is this focus on what didn't succeed, what didn't, and it's like, it's kind of innocent.
Yes, it's very innocent. Mm-hmm.
But when you bring in like, oh, wait a minute, what about all these other things that you did do? What about, all this good that you did do for the world? And then, that perspective shift can really help a Leo, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And be really healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure the Israelites missed Moses because he wasn't hanging out with them in the promised land.
Exactly.
Where'd that Moses guy get to?
Where do you go after? Where do you go after them?
Yeah, so second stage Leo is well, they beat themselves up a lot, and they do tend to feel like they aren't worthy of love unless they accomplish something really big, but it's not possible to accomplish something really big.
Yeah.
So we've got this sort of endless loop going on. And there are two signs that in second stage have the most possible personality types. And that's Leo and Pisces. So I think there's about 5 or 6 different personality types in second stage for each sign.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to sort of think for a moment about how the Aries North Node with the Leo South Node or the Libra South Node might relate to each of these individual types, or whether we need to mention them right at the moment, because I know we talk about them elsewhere. I know that one type of second stage Leo is what I'd call the glory hound, and it's a person who wants appreciation, wants success, even if it's wanting fame rather than necessarily wanting accomplishment. Because if I can do something that is bright and flashy and meaningful and gets lots of attention, and not meaningful in the sense of I feel like it saved the world,
mm-hmm.
but enough that I can say, look at me, I've really expressed myself.
Yes.
And you guys should love me anyway, even if I really haven't saved the world, which is what I'd actually like to be doing, but I'm not going to ignore that right now.
Right. It's like a substitute, substitute.
Yeah. So I could see that one kind of fitting in Aries North Node in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because it might not be expressing the most ideal form of the Aries North Node.
Right. So, this is a spontaneous thing that just came to me, but in second stage, is the North Node, does it play a slightly different role than it does in first or third?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's different in each sign too, because I think the North Node a lot of the time in second stage is trying to get its message through, and it's hard for it to be heard, just as a general rule.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that that in second stage often we actually don't go toward our North Node at all?
We often don't go toward it, or we go towards a less constructive version of it sometimes too.
Yes. Okay. So we can imagine somebody with Aries North Node in the second stage of Leo who's actually really stuck in their South Node.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Wanting to present a pretty picture to the world. To the people. Let's sort of make the people happy in a surface way rather than looking after their higher needs, because I failed at that. But if I can be really popular, then it'll make up for it.
Yes.
Which, of course, the drive tends to drive people, but achieving that doesn't really bring a whole lot of satisfaction, because it's not what they're really looking for, actually.
Right.
But it feels like a really good compensation, because otherwise you're going to just be nothing.
Yes,
exactly. I have to be something. It's what that Aries North Node says.
Right. Right. Which is interesting because Aries North, like Aries can have a little bit of a show off quality.
Yep.
Right. And Libra can be like, um, contorting itself in every which way to try to be loved.
Yes, yes.
So I can really see those two, that combination in the second stage of Leo acting as this, this force.
Yeah. Now there's another type of Leo that I've called the kitchen soup sweetie.
Oh, I love that name. Very creative.
And they are the ones that instead of trying to get into a big sort of a position of leadership to save the world, they're going to go down to the grassroots and just give and give and give and give to everybody and kind of give themselves away.
Oh, like the soup kitchen sweetie.
Yeah, that's what I said. The soup sweetie. Sorry, that back.
I love it.
Soup kitchen sweetie. Yes.
Yes. I love it. Is it chicken soup sweetie or soup kitchen sweetie?
It's definitely soup kitchen. It's soup kitchen. It's going.
I know. I'm joking.
But yeah, for some people it might be kitchen. It might be chicken soup for sure. I'm going to make chicken soup for you. I don't care if I get sick in the process.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so the soup kitchen sweetie is gaining that, is trying to be useful.
Well, they really still love the people.
Yes.
They've got that piece of really still loving the people, and they will go to environments or attract people who are very, very much in need in some way or another, and who they can't save them in every possible way, but they will pour all their energy in a very personal kind of making themselves expendable way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
On giving and looking after people.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they become very similar to certain types of second stage Aries, which is interesting with an Aries North Node, why it would bring this type out more. Because second stage Aries people are very unselfish, and they will give according to whatever someone asks of them, no matter what, no matter how appropriate it is, because they're afraid to be selfish. That's what happens with second stage Aries. With second stage Leo, it's more that they feel so bad that they let everyone down before, and they love everyone anyway, that they want to help as many people as they can, and they're just doing it almost in a less organized way, and they certainly don't look after themselves at all.
Oh.
Aries North Node altruism and wanting to be a hero, but they've got the Libra South Node. I'm completely directed by other people's needs and requirements.
Right.
And they burn themselves out, and they really exhaust themselves. This kitchen soup sweetie, because they just feel like if they help even a few hundred people, that's not going to make up for the thousands of people that were let down before. So they can't put themselves first in any way.
Gosh, and I can imagine just the lack of they're still not nourishing themselves, right?
No, definitely not at all. And they would be horrified at the thought of trying to do that.
Yeah.
Until they get to the point where they're falling apart so much that so is everything they're trying to help is not, if we don't have ourselves, we can't do anything for anybody else. And some signs, like this type of second stage Leo or second stage Aries, they have to learn that the hard way.
Yeah. And it's fascinating as you're talking, you've talked in a previous video about this as well, that in Gemini, we talked about how when there's a personality type for second stage of any sign, when there are, many personality types, it's not only that you can only be one of them. There can be a blend.
Yeah.
And just what's that?
Yeah, that's true.
Is that true for Leo too?
That is true for Leo, although what will sometimes happen is that Leos, instead of blending the types, they may go through phases in their lives where they express one type and then they move to another type. And
Yeah.
sometimes they also blend them, but other times they sort of shift around from one thing to another.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to think of, the other thing that will happen in second stage Leo is that this fine line between conformity and nonconformity splits. I mean, there's a big fracturing that really happens to Leo when they go into second stage. And so some Leos become ultra conformists in second stage. Like I have to, that's how they please the people, by really conforming. That,
Yes.
they're just afraid that if they don't follow the rules, and it'll just be awful. And others will flip to the other side and become ultra nonconformists.
Wow.
And then they're very similar to the second stage Geminis, who are the noble rebel, but they're so outside of society that they're really pretty. Most people think they're pretty weird, but they're going to hang on to that individuality no matter what. Now, I suppose that could be an Aries North Node expression as well.
Could be. Yeah. Yeah. I certainly wouldn't imagine an Aries North Node being the conformist type.
No, I don't think so. I'm just trying to think of any others that I can think of at the moment that fit in with the nodes. I don't think anything else is really kind of jumping out with that nodal combination as far as second stage Leo types go.
Okay. So bring us maybe into the transition. So they've been in second stage, reacting to their previous failure, right? And everything they're doing is a reaction to that perceived failure, the compulsive conformity or nonconformity, this feeling of I'll only be worthy if I have, if I meet some impossible goals, and yet they cannot ever achieve those goals.
Yep.
And you also, in your book, you talk about giving or taking too much.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Anything more on that?
Well, I mean, the kitchen soup sweetie is an example of a type of second stage Leo that gives too much.
Yeah.
Others will take too much because, in a way, the glory hound is trying to take for me. And, some just become really dependent. And I don't think this nodal combination would really generally fit with that type in pure second stage, because they just collapse. There's a type of second stage Leo that just was like, there's no point in trying to do anything. I'm just going to collapse. Just become as close to non-functional as I possibly can.
So that's not an Aries North Node.
No, I don't think so. Now, if this person's in second third or born into second third, they could very easily have an Aries North Node.
Okay, so tell us about that. Shall we start to move in that direction? Second, third?
Yes. Had to look after something in my environment.
Excellent.
Yeah, so certainly, so if we're going to there's a second type of second stage Leo that if a person's born into the transition in this type of second stage, with this type of second stage Leo pattern, I've called it the nihilistic Leo, or there's like the lazy lion, and they're both kind of similar. A lazy lion is the kind that just relaxes and does become dependent.
Yeah.
And the nihilistic Leo, and you can have a blend of those quite easily, is what's the point? Everything's hopeless. Everything's doom.
Yeah.
Anything. It's all dark and black and bleak. So they're a sunny and a dark version of the same thing, which is having given up on trying to accomplish anything.
Yes.
So those types, particularly the lazy lion type that likes to lie in the sun and have someone else look after them, and whines if somebody tries to get them to take responsibility, they have that Libra South node of, I'm going to just lay back and let someone look after me.
Yes, because Libra can have laziness too, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's a sort of negative Libra potential.
Now, if someone's in second, third stage, they are tired and really sick of not being able to get up and get anything done.
Yes.
That you know, they're horrified by that. It's not as if they wanted to be like that. And as a lot of people think that that type of Leo wants to be that way, but they're kind of paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been paralyzed by this feeling like there's nothing worth, and it's very subconscious, but there's nothing worth doing except the really, really big thing. And that big thing is impossible. So I'm so deflated that I can't lift a finger.
Yes.
So the Aries North Node would help to kind of be a catalyst to pull the person out of the Libra hammock that they've been lying in.
Yeah. 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 And do you know, would you say that we go into our South Node sometimes when we're stressed? It's a very easy time for us to fall back into our South Node.
Absolutely. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because then when we fall back into the South Node, it increases our stress.
Yes.
And so it gets to be this, both of them, you know, the South Node, when we fall back into it, it becomes its own kind of feedback loop. But
Yes.
the more we go into our North Node, the more it also reinforces itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we're stressed and if we're finding ourselves, just as a side note, in, falling back or tending to go back into those old patterns, even though it feels hard to do our North Node work, even because it's out of our comfort zone, actually starting to do those things is what's going to give us energy.
Exactly. Yeah. So for the lazy lion, actually following some kind of spontaneous impulse and acting on it becomes the way out of the hammock.
Yeah.
And for the nihilistic lion, who's lying in the hammock wearing black clothing and black eyeshadow, no matter what gender they are, following that spontaneous impulse also gets them out of the hammock, but also gives them hope.
Yes.
And they just need to not worry about it or question it too much. Just let themselves experience it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Having some kind of real interest helps the nihilistic Leo.
Yeah. And Aries is very much about action.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So it's cardinal sign. So it's the spark, and I almost think of it as like, it doesn't even have to have like a real goal in mind, or or it could, but it doesn't have to be focused on the end result. It's not about seeing it through to the end. It's about just getting out there, acting on your impulses, starting something, and the energy that comes with that.
Mm-hmm. And for all second, third stage Leos, that's very key, because that, particularly the part you said about it doesn't have to have an end result or an end goal.
Mm-hmm.
To be spontaneously in the process and the experience of that forward cresting inspiration, without feeling like you're carrying the world or you have to make massive plans. I think an Aries North Node would be super, super helpful for second, third stage in Leos.
I find it to be, this is my, I have a cusp nodal signature, and my North Node is in Aries and Taurus. And so I have that Aries North Node. What's that?
Yes. It's great.
Yes. Yeah. And so I have the Aries North Node and the Leo moon, and I do find that it's so indispensable anytime I'm, feeling even the potential of getting stuck in a rut or discouraged about everything. That Aries North Node really comes in and, can bring energy into the situation, and also kind of a youthfulness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and definitely the youthfulness is very much so the case with that nodal combination. And that's very key for going into the third stage of Leo.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really youthful, spontaneous experience of life, no matter what age a person is physically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the Libra South Node is, for all second, third stage Leos, it pulls the person backwards because they have to look after other people. It's that, what about keeping the balance for the world?
Yeah.
And it's like, nope, it's not about that.
Yes.
Again, to marry the nodes as we go towards third stage, it has to be an inner balance within the person first and foremost.
So, Do you want to say something about the keys to mastering that second, third stage transition? Just to kind of bullet point it.
Well, the key, one major key is balancing the internal male and female parent figures.
Mm-hmm.
And these are different than the external parent figures,
Mm-hmm.
although they're often the same. They're what we carry kind of half consciously within our inner being.
Mm-hmm.
Again, though many Leos find that that's what shows up in their outside world.
Mm-hmm.
But what the natural role for these deeper instinctive parent figures is for the mother figure to unconditionally accept the child as its being lying in the mother's arms. And the archetypal purpose for the father principle is to stand on the other side of the room and encourage the child to actualize itself and to step beyond that safe place and move forward in life, and to say you're doing a great job when the baby takes its first steps.
Mm-hmm.
In second stage Leo, those parent figures distort. And again, the external parent figures may also reflect that even if they don't, the internal parent figures take on a form where the mother figure kind of disappears and the father figure looks at the baby and says, you better not fall.
Right.
So to develop the feminine principle and to develop the nurturing feminine principle, and a lot, it's not uncommon for second stage Leos to have tyrannical parents, where both parents are like this tyrannical father. Mother's not accepting, mother's not a nurturing influence. A second, third stage Leo may have that same environment that they're born into, or they're born into an environment where they have a super nurturing mother, which is a huge gift. Because a second, third stage Leo needs that divine feminine principle to be supporting them unconditionally, be supporting them to simply be. Because a super important key for second, third stage Leo is to be rather than do.
Mm-hmm.
And to never use the word should. Because Leos are under the tyranny of the should. I should do this.
Yes.
So those are key principles. And to turn within and discover the self. So to fall in love with the self. So that brings us to that Aries North Node of the self.
Yes.
Very strongly.
Yeah. I had, this is a funny story that I always, I remember, I worked in a little childcare area for a little while. And there's this one little boy who was I don't know what his, chart looked like, but he was so self-directed and he had so much of that Aries energy. And, he was like, maybe 1.5.
Yes.
And, so he still needed help with certain things. And you'd be like pulling his pants up for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd kind of push you away and go, self. It was so funny. He would just say, he was probably younger, maybe 14 months or something, but he would just say self. And like, you got it, you got it. You got what he meant. He was just like, this is about me doing it myself.
I love that.
Lifetime is free. And I just think, I think about that when I think of the Aries North Node.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the kind of kid I was, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I couldn't be taught anything. I wouldn't even let somebody teach me how to tie my own shoes. I had to invent it myself.
Oh, wow. Do you still tie your shoes that way?
Well, yeah, I do actually, but I had to reinvent the wheel, which was pretty hard. I should have let somebody teach me.
Pick your battles, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I've been learning to pick my battles.
That's a great one too. I'll remember that one.
Yeah, because I have Sun in Aries.
Exactly, yes. Lina has Sun in Aries.
Yeah, but I also had a mother who was super mom. So I was trying to say, no, I've got to have some independence. I've got to do some things myself.
Yes, right. Trying to individuate.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's what he was doing too, obviously. I think he was, no, I got to do this myself. It's pretty cute.
No. Yeah. It's the shorthand.
Yeah, that's really cool.
love it. So, yeah, okay. So, so we're at sort of the keys to mastering the second, third stage. You gave us that, and you talked also about, just the should. So take away the should, take away the pressure to achieve anything.
Exactly. Yes,
Right?
exactly. Which feels like such a weird concept for second, third stage Leo.
Totally.
What are you talking about? That's not the way the world operates. We have to have goals. We have to achieve things. And it's true that you do have to a certain degree. But it's really important not to have your focus be there, to kind of keep it in the background.
Yes.
As much as you need to set those structures up and make them be as self-maintaining as possible. Because the thing is that once a person goes into third stage Leo, they've fallen in love with themselves. There has to be this unconditional self-love, getting away from conditional love. Because second stage Leos, in their minds, love is conditional only for them. A lot of Leos, particularly if we go back to the kitchen soup sweetie, they have unconditional love for everybody except themselves.
Totally.
There's different rules for them. And so Leos have to learn how to just fall into themselves, to discover how beautiful they are, and to fall in love with themselves, and to get lost in the joy of self-discovery and the joy of the discovery of the world.
Yes, totally.
And that opens up access to the spiritual reality of life, which floods through them. And the interesting thing is that third stage Leos, as they develop, they end up doing bigger things, and a lot of them anyway. It doesn't really matter whether they do this or not, but many of them can achieve much bigger feats of amazing transformation in the world and service to the world than they ever did in first stage. But they're not really doing it. It's happening through them.
Yes. Yeah. And would you say like they're just kind of enjoying the process of it?
Yes,
and
exactly.
Delighting in the unfolding.
That's right. Yep. So one thing I've said about third stage Leo is they play to an audience of one.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I'll just share personally for myself, having the Leo moon, I've been so focused on achievement my whole life. And then at some point it stopped working.
Right. Yes, it does.
And it was just like, well, why isn't this working? And I think there might be an element of that for a lot of second, third stage, where some way that you've functioned forever stops working.
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
And for me nowadays, like one of my greatest medicines is just like going out on my Slack line, right? Because I've managed to make an achievement out of everything, including my yoga teaching.
Right.
That's all achievement oriented and it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And now my greatest joy is like going out on my Slack line because nobody's watching, nobody cares.
Yes.
There's no measure, there's no yardstick, and I'm just falling all over the place and having the greatest time.
Yes. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, that's definitely the kind of things that second, third stage and third stage Leo need to do. And it's going to be different for each person.
Yeah.
But it's definitely this wonderful experience. Wonderful. And elements of self-discovery also are super, super valuable. It should be magical. Carl Jung went into a third stage Leo in his lifetime, and he just kind of fell into discovering the collective unconscious, and it poured out of his chimney. I mean, he just got lost in this big process of falling into that deeper mind. And I'm sure he was so delighted in it, he was also falling in love with himself. How could he not?
Yes, how could he not? I know. If I was young, I would.
Yeah, exactly.
So, back to Leo's purpose, inspired leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So talk to us, if you will, for a moment about third stage Leo. Yeah, so how do they embody leadership?
Is another way to describe it too.
Say it again.
Joyful leadership.
Joyful leadership. Yeah.
So third stage Leo is is still going to be a leader, but they don't really care who's following them, if whether or
Yeah.
not anyone's following them. And they
Yeah.
know the path they're on is just so filled with beauty and incredible, amazing everything. It's like they live a charmed life.
Yes.
So anyone who's going to follow them is going to enter into that world along with them.
Yes.
So they lead without trying. That's
Yeah.
the inspired piece of it. It's inspired by that greater collective power. And
Yeah.
that greater collective reality is even a better way to describe it.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
There's a lot of famous third stage Leo jazz musicians, massive, famous jazz musicians. And that's perfect expression of third stage Leo.
Yeah, you're just playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, like having a great time, and the fact that people are there watching is like, yeah, you could just see jazz musicians, I mean, my favorite image of a jazz musician is just they're so lost in just the act of improvisation in that moment.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because another just as accomplished jazz musician might be a second stage of a different sign. So you can never say that a specific role in society is going to be an expression of a certain stage.
Totally.
But find more types of, a certain stage of a certain sign in certain arenas.
Yes.
Not to say that you have to be a jazz musician in order to be a third stage Leo. Not at all.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and a third stage Leo with the nodes, with the Aries node, North node, and the Libra South node would have married those two so that they're spontaneously involved in pursuing the inspiration of the moment and acting on it, because acting on these things is important. It's not just something that you do as an internalized process. There has to be some kind of movement involved, even if you're just taking a walk in the park and going, wow, about every tiny little thing that you see. Action is a part of the process of third stage Leo. And then the Libra piece comes in, and it marries the North node in that there's this constant subconscious maintenance of the internal harmony of being. And in a balanced perspective to all relationships. And then if we look at the houses we find the nodes in, we always find that the house that where the South node is where these issues of undoing, but a special gift that can be brought forward when we marry the nodes is found. And the North node, that the house position or the house positions of the North node will show the area that really draws a person forward, an area of life that's very nurturing for them, that the more they develop that area, the more they move forward in their sign.
Yeah.
And you find the house position. You have to know the time of birth in order to know what house the nodes are in.
Yeah. So knowing your nodes and then knowing what house positions they're in helps to kind of complete that picture.
Yeah.
Fill it in more.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.